Welcome to today's episode of Talking Tinnitus, presented by Lanier. We're here with tinnitus expert, Dr. Gail Whitelaw. Dr. Whitelaw is the director of the Speech Language Hearing Clinic at The Ohio State University and a past president of the American Academy of Audiology. Very welcome to the show, Gail. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So today we're talking about why on some days is my tinnitus worse than others, right? And I think people who've experienced tinnitus and live with it, probably not necessarily a constant experience that they have. It differs. And so, what are some of the reasons that might be the case?
Sure. That's a great question because people ask that all the time.
Okay.
And it's really a perception, but that perception can be based on so many things in someone's life. We probably don't even know why the tinnitus may fluctuate. One of the big things is anxiety and stress.
Okay.
And so people will talk about if it's a particularly anxious period in their life, car accident, someone passes away, that kind of thing, they'll notice that their tinnitus fluctuates up. Additionally, if it affects their sleep, sleep is a really important foundation for addressing tinnitus, and the less sleep that someone gets, or if they're getting poor sleep, they really struggle with their tinnitus. And there can be many, many other reasons. I just saw somebody this week who mentioned to me that if they eat out at a restaurant, presuming it's a high salt diet, that their tinnitus will be terrible for 2 or 3 days after that. And they've measured that in themselves. They'll say, "What changed this week?" A lot of people will self medicate with something like alcohol. And if they're using alcohol, that may be something else that gets their tinnitus to fluctuate up. Some people will talk about somatic tinnitus, so something in their jaw or their neck, and maybe they sleep funny on their neck, or they've turned their head in a certain way. They'll notice that their tinnitus moves up from that. So there's so many things that can happen from a day to day, even something as simple as changes in the weather. I have a patient who calls himself the human barometer, and he talks about barometric pressure being something that he really notices and really affects his tinnitus. Other people will talk about rainstorms, and that will mess with their tinnitus also. Their perception will increase.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So many different reasons.
Yes.
Many different reasons. Different lifestyle factors, just different events in a different week. Maybe things out of routine potentially, or
Right.
all of that. And so, is it common? I guess for if someone comes into you as a patient, it's likely that most people living with tinnitus will experience difference in fluctuations. Probably more. It's probably less common for somebody to just have a constant experience that's the same. Is that
Yeah.
an assumption?
Yeah, a lot of people will come in and something will have changed about their tinnitus. For example, they may have had that constant, what they describe as a ring forever.
Yeah.
And maybe they've lost a little bit more hearing, or maybe they've gone to a concert and been exposed to noise.
Sure.
And all of a sudden there's an overtone on their tinnitus. Or, your brain kind of gets used to that constant sound. We call that habituation. So you start to be able to ignore it. But all of a sudden now your tinnitus is perceived as a little bit louder, a little bit sharper, maybe a different frequency.
Sure.
And that's really bothersome to people. And probably I would say about 50% of the people I see come in with those kinds of complaints. And so we look at that also as how do we address that with that fluctuation, because that's a type of fluctuation also.
Okay. And so it's likely that might be a trigger then for them to seek treatment, basically.
Yep.
Okay.
And it might be a trigger for them for sure.
Sure. Okay, cool. So I guess the message would be that there's many reasons why your tinnitus might be different or change or fluctuate from one day to the other. But probably the best thing to do if you're unsure about it or would like some information is to go to a tinnitus expert, a certified audiologist or other healthcare professional, and they'll work with you to figure that out and figure out your path forward.
Yeah. I think that finding a tinnitus expert who listens to you and puts these things together is critically important.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's really bothered with that fluctuation in their tinnitus, cognitive behavioral therapy or another type of mental health support
Yeah.
is going to be an incredible augment or supplement to what a tinnitus expert audiologist could do.
Yes.
So, and for some people, if their tinnitus, for example, changes and has an overtone that sounds pulsatile, like with their heartbeat, then we're going to refer them to a physician, usually an otologist who does ears, a specialized type of ENT, and they will be able to kind of join into that team and see if there's something that's, going on. I've had things as simple as somebody who had a thyroid condition, and once it was treated, their tinnitus really, really minimized. I have some patients who've had, cardiac kinds of things.
Sure.
And once that was treated, their tinnitus was minimized. So I think it's important to kind of look at the big picture.
Holistic approach.
But I like the fact that an audiologist should be the person that might want to lead that team because of the breadth of their knowledge with that.
Sure. Interesting. So the message might be that this happens. An expert has probably seen many patients who's had fluctuations, and they'll work with you. Your story is going to be unique to you with regards to your tinnitus, but your audiologist will be used to working with patients who have their tinnitus changing.
Mm-hmm.
So go and speak to them.
I love what you said about, your tinnitus is unique to you. That's a message we tell patients every day. They'll often say, "Oh, you've probably heard this 100 times." And I might say, "I've heard some version of this 100 times, but I haven't heard yours. And I want to hear it because that's how I'm going to help you."
Super. Very good. Gail, thank you for your time joining the show today. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Neil.